What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for Week 14 of the 2021 CFL season. I'm Ryan Coop here with your first of two depth chart updates for the week to get you all set for locking in your lineup. Week number 14 kicks off tonight with a doubleheader. The BC Lions, Hamilton Tiger Cats, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders and Edmonton Elks. Both games going tonight, two games on Saturday as well. Which means you got to start getting those lineups in and locking them in and getting ready for a fun weekend of CFL Fantasy. So let's go through the depth charts here for the Friday night games, and then the depth charts for Saturday's games will come out later this morning, early this afternoon. Later today, I will have a depth chart update on those games as well, once I have the time to do so. But let's get you covered for the Friday games. You can also check on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. I tweet out all the depth charts and the notables from there as well. But let's talk first Ticats and Lions. And first of all, for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, pretty much the same depth chart as the week before for them. With the notable change, Malik Irons is back on the active roster, joins a crowded backfield of four running backs listed on the game day depth chart. Still no Braylon Addison. He's out on the 6-game injured list. Don Jackson does get the start at running back again after a fantastic week from him the week before. They'll line up with Jeremiah Mazzoli as the quarterback. No surprise there. He's had 3 straight really good games. Don Jackson's the starter at running back with Sean Thomas Erlington, Malik Irons, and Jackson Bennett all listed behind him. Could potentially see, a couple of carries here and there by any or all of those guys, which maybe makes me a bit cautious on Jackson, but if he puts up, I think he had 18 carries last week, should be a good day for him again. At wide receiver, it's the usual Stephen Dunbar Jr., Jalen Acklin, Brandon Banks, Tim White, and David Unger III as your starters there. Still no Frankie Williams back on the lineup, so Brandon Banks handles main return duties with Unger III handling the backup role in that position. So pretty consistent lineup for Hamilton, and they've had a couple of real good games in a row. Especially offensively, and I would expect nothing less to roll with the same lineup week in and week out. They're facing the BC Lions this week, who have a number of notable changes. A little bit consistent, I guess, from last week, but different than what we're used to seeing throughout the year. Still no DeVere Posey, still no Keon Hatcher, still no Lamar Durant. Durant is on the 6-game injured list, so he'll be out for a while. At receiver for the Lions. Javon Catoy was a backup behind Dominic Rhymes last week. He moves into more of a starting slot this time around, which is where we saw him for a number of weeks. Let's see, the Lions are also without Chris Rainey on the active roster, so wide receiver Carlos Henderson will be taking the kick and punt return duties this week. Note, he is only listed in the return slot. He's not even listed even as a backup at receiver, so I think it's safe to expect that he will be only handling return duties in case you were hoping for him maybe to pick up some receiving duties as well. It doesn't look like that's likely, but it is just a depth chart. You never know what's going to happen once the game comes to the field. At running back, James Butler is the starter again, but newly re-added Jamel Lyles is back with the team and on the active roster as Butler's backup. So a limited, dose of carries there. Could we see Lyles take a couple of them from Butler? I think there is potential for that to be the case. So the Lions will line up as follows on offense this week. Michael Riley is the starter at quarterback. Nathan Rourke is the backup. He missed the past game or two, I think, with an injury. He is now back in as backup. As I mentioned, Butler and Lyles as your running backs. At receiver, it's Lucky Whitehead, 2nd game back from injury. Brian Burnham, Javon Catoy, Dominic Rhymes, with Jacob Scarfoni as a backup behind him, and Shaq Johnson. So a couple notable receivers we've seen throughout the year. missing for the Lions, but they also do have Dominic Rhymes back for his second straight game, and same with Lucky Whitehead for BC. They've also made a change at kicker this week after Camacho missed 3 field goals late in the game to end or had a chance to pull out the win, but failed to do so. So new kicker on board. Fogel gets the start for the Lions after being brought in a couple days or last week, I believe it was, for BC. Looking into the second game on Friday night, the Saskatchewan Roughriders and Edmonton Elks for the Riders. Some changes at receiver this week. Kyron Moore is out. I believe he's going to be out long term, might be even done for the year. Duke Williams is a game time decision after missing a bit of practice time this week, so be cautious there. If you're spending $9,000 on Duke Williams and he's not ready to play, yeah, that could hurt your lineup quite a bit. What else do we have? We have to replace the injured Kyron Moore. Ricardo Lewis draws back into the active roster. Lewis had a couple good games earlier this year, but then came out of the lineup once Evans and Williams came in. Last week, Mitchell Picton, much to the surprise of a lot of people, myself included, had a starting role with Keon Schaefer-Baker, who has been so good at times this year, being his backup. Picton comes off the active roster this week. Schaefer-Baker gets his starting slot back. So not slot back, wide receiver. He does get his starting spot back, but not at the slot back position. Do you get what I'm saying? I hope so. I think I do. Quarterback, Cody Fajardo, no surprise there. Started every game this year, should continue doing so. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the game. Running back, William Powell gets the start. Keenan LaFrance is the backup. At wide receiver, we've got Shaq Evans, Ricardo Lewis, Braden Lenius, Duke Williams, who's a game-time decision, and Keon Schaefer-Baker as your starters. A couple backups there, Jake Hardy, Justin McInnes, and Rashard Davis, who presumably will be handling kick returns for the third straight game. If Williams isn't quite ready to go, I could see any of those guys getting into the rotation for a couple, for some reps at receiver this week, which if Rashard Davis is handling kick returns and all of a sudden gets into starting role, that may be a great play at a cheap $2,500 salary. No changes on the defensive side of the ball for the Riders this week. And then we get to Edmonton, a team that has a whole slew of changes due to some injuries this week, some very notable ones. At quarterback, many expected it to be Nick Arbuckle coming in to get some time with his new team in the Elks, but they are rolling with Taylor Cornelius again this week. They want to give Arbuckle some more time, I guess, to prep and learn the offense. So Taylor Cornelius gets himself another start. Dakota Prukop is his backup at quarterback. At running back, James Wilder Jr. has missed practice this week and is not on the game day roster, which means Walter Fletcher gets the start at running back. Cheap running back option this week, around $3,500, I believe. Terry Williams will be his backup and will also handle return duties. And then a couple big changes at receiver. No Greg Ellingson, no Darrell Walker, arguably the two biggest names in the Elks receiving corps. They are out this week due to injury. But they do finally get Armonte Edwards back in the lineup. Edwards played 2 games earlier this year before going down due to injury and is finally ready to return, and we'll see what he can get done. He comes at an expensive salary at over $8,000, and in the 2 games he played this year definitely didn't warrant it. So probably not a fantasy play there in my opinion at his price, but I'm excited to see how he performs and if he can get back to the play we've seen from him in the past in his time in Toronto. Ernest Edwards also comes back onto the active roster after being taken off for a number of weeks. He'll be a backup at receiver. The starting receiver crew is Armonte Edwards, Shai Ross, Jalen Tolliver, who's been a backup for a couple weeks, now moves into a starting role, Tavon Smith, and Mike Jones. So a couple big pieces missing, but the chance for some younger guys or some lesser used receivers to step up and have a big day here. Starting 3 Canadians at the receiver position is Edmonton this week. So Some notable changes there on the offensive side of the ball. All the big salaries, so to say, are fantasy-wise are off the roster, and which is great news if you're thinking of taking one of the cheaper guys as a depth value play. So those are your fantasy notables for the Friday night games. Again, I'll have another depth chart out later today, probably late afternoon, early evening for the games on Saturday. And make sure you get those lineups locked in before the games start tonight. Best of luck to you in week number 14 of CFL Fantasy. I hope you crush it. Hope we see you at the top of the leaderboard. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you like, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42 on Twitter. And you can check out the depth charts as I tweet them out there as well. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, there is a link in the description to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group over on the official CFL Fantasy site. You can play alongside myself and other viewers this week and the rest of the 2021 CFL season. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.